Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and this is a video response to JarlDM's video about how to incorporate the idea of fate and predestination into a role-playing game without sort of sapping all of the player choice out of the game. And you can see the original video by clicking there. Now, if I can just take a moment to reach for one of my favourite roleplay books, I'm sure you won't be surprised it's this one, entitled, appropriately enough for this video, Fate. The way I'd do it if I were using the Fate system, which is my preferred system, and obviously I can't talk about how I do it in every system, that'd be ridiculous for a short video, but if one of the things I love about Fate is the idea of aspects, and these are, as anyone who's played it will know, little story tags that you can either use to get certain bonuses or that the GM can compel, rewarding you essentially for accepting plot complications. So for instance, you could take on the run from the law as an aspect, and let's say you're wandering through a town, the GM might offer you a fate point to compel that aspect of on the run from the law, to say that perhaps there are some posters up describing you as wanted. The local cashier of the supermarket where you've stopped has seen one such poster and he starts dialing for the police. Now, you don't have to accept this compel. You can pay one of your existing fate points to effectively buy it off and ignore it, or you can accept that plot complication, and in return for you accepting a slight disadvantage or a complication and enriching the plot of the game, you are rewarded with a fate point that you can use later to get you bonuses in certain other aspects of the game. So what I'd do, if I was going to try and incorporate some notion of predestination or predetermination into an actual game, what I'd do is I'd have the players take an aspect which represents whatever their destiny or their foretold fate is going to be. And depending on how much I wanted to incorporate that into the game, I would depend on how much I compel it. If I really wanted destiny to be hammered home, this idea of a fate or a doom or weird or whatever you want to call it to be hammered home constantly in the game, then I'd be regularly compelling it sort of at least every half hour, or at least a few times every game session, depending on how many players I had. Whereas if I wanted it to be maybe a little bit more subtle, I'd compel it perhaps not quite as often. Now, if the player wants to rail against their destiny or their fate, as heroes often do in mythology, they can obviously buy off the potential compels and not accept the relevant complications using their fate points. But as is also the case in mythology and classic tales, there would only be so long that they could hold off their destiny, represented by the fact that sooner or later they would run out of fate points and they'd have to start accepting compels to build them back up again. So just a short video of this, but I think that's how I'd represent predetermination in a system like Fate, which includes compels, although I suppose you could use it in Numenera with things like GM intrusions as well and other such mechanics. Any mechanic that basically allows you to suggest a complication to a player and reward them for accepting it would allow you to take this approach. And depending on how much you want to have Fate play a role in the session would depend on how much you keep compelling these aspects. So that's my video response. I hope if you've enjoyed it, you'll click on like and subscribe by clicking on the red dice up there. If you have any comments or suggestions, as always, put them in the comments box below or hit me up in the Google Plus links. I really do enjoy reading what you write. And until I see you next time in the next video, take care and happy gaming.